Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Discover how to make your first million. And today we have a special guest from United States, Raghu. Raghu, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So first of all, Harry, thanks for having me on your show. My name is Raghu Kumar. I'm basically an entrepreneur. I've been around the financial markets my entire professional career. I love trading. I love finance. I love gaming. I love money.
Very good. That's fantastic. So, Raghu, share with us your journey as an entrepreneur. You decided to become an entrepreneur? What happened? Your family? Do you have a friend that inspired you? So what happened there?
Yeah. So my story is kind of interesting. I kind of consider myself to be like an accidental entrepreneur. I never really
Like all of
wanted
them,
to.
I think.
Well, in my case, I basically became a trader. I was a full-time trader. I was trading the financial markets professionally.
Wow.
My brother and I
Where?
basically yeah, I was in Chicago. And then in Chicago, we basically started up our own proprietary trading company. We were trading our own capital. And then one fine day, we realized that if we kind of incorporate a partnership, then we would save on taxes, right? So literally overnight, we went from just kind of being on our own to kind of forming our own partnership, and that's how I think I became an entrepreneur. So
Mm.
this is back in 2006, and then I kind of kept it up, and
And
then
by
I've
partnership,
basically
the
been an
business grow
entrepreneur.
faster, right?
Yeah, so I think there's some benefits to becoming a partnership. Obviously, there from a tax perspective, you're kind of gaining a lot. I think it also kind of legitimizes what you're doing. Until then, I was kind of faking it, and back then I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But I think once you kind of incorporate yourself and you kind of take that first step, it kind of makes it real, and that's an important step to kind of go through.
You take it more seriously, right? Yeah. I always
Exactly.
said, Raul, that all the most of the entrepreneurs are dead. They become entrepreneurs by an accident, right? They have a product, they make some money, they have a profit. Oh, there you go. Now you're in business, and then or you heard something from a friend, you want to do the same thing, but you sold something, you make some money, and all of a sudden we are in this business where we don't know anything about it, and we need to catch up very quickly.
Exactly. Because most people think you can just make some quick money and then you're kind of good to go. To be honest, if you're kind of chasing the money, you're probably not doing it for the right reason and you're probably not going to succeed anyways. So, yeah, I mean, if you're kind of in it because you want to build a long-term business and you kind of know what you're doing, for sure, you're an entrepreneur. But for many people, they have an idea, they have a passion for it, and then they realize one day, hey, I'm an entrepreneur.
Mm. Tell us a little bit more about your first business before we jump into the second one. So I think you have been successfully backing in that business. So tell us a
Mhm.
little bit more. What happened? How you grow this business? Uh,
Sure. So essentially, as I was saying earlier, I got introduced to trading at a pretty young age, and I was really fascinated with the financial markets. So my brother and I started trading our own capital. We continued that for a couple of years in Chicago. And then one day we decided to move to India and set up a stock brokerage in India, you know.
wow.
So that was a big decision, for us. And I ended up spending almost 12 years living in India, setting up my business.
Big
And
market. Lot of
it's
people
a
live there. Huge, no?
big market, huge market, massive population, massive opportunity. Of course, these things are easier said when you're kind of looking backwards. But when we were in that moment, it
You
was
didn't know what you
difficult
were doing. You were a
because
little bit scared, yeah?
we were scared. We didn't really know what we are doing, to be honest. I think at that time I was 22, 23. My brother was 27. We were single. We had no worries. And we just kind of went there and just gave it a shot. And so we ended up spending a lot of time in the country. Luckily for us, the business ended up, succeeding. And that was essentially my first business. Yeah, Upstox.
So here's the thing, I think that you guys have been very mature because when I was this age 22, or all I was thinking is chasing girls and going to party, yeah, and having fun. So what, since so young age, 22 years old, you decided to travel to another country to open a business in another country? What were you thinking?
Well, for sure, I did my fair share of, partying as well, at that age.
It's not that
you
you
know,
haven't done it, no?
no, no, for sure, for sure. But at
uh,
the same time, at that age, I think, for us, we were kind of doing what we wanted to do. Again, I essentially have never really worked anywhere. I've only been kind of an entrepreneur. And I've been around the financial markets my entire life. So we were just kind of naturally following our kind of natural course in life. We were never really doing it for the money, and so I think because of that, it ended up being more natural than kind of just chasing something because I want to become like a millionaire the next day.
mhm. Any challenge that you face there in India when you arrive? Because I think that you guys are used to the U.S. law and how things run in U.S., right? And then you arrive there and you are in India, and now do you face any challenges to set up the company to adapt to the system, or is actually pretty similar to what you guys have in U.S.?
So setting up a company in itself was not super difficult. I think the bigger challenge that we faced was kind of obtaining the licenses required to run a brokerage, because obviously as a stock brokerage, you're dealing with customer funds and there's a lot of things kind of going on over there. So for us, it took us a longer time than usual, also because we were essentially not citizens, we're Americans. So, and back then there were not a lot of Americans moving to India and setting up businesses. So I think we got our fair share of kind of frowns and people kind of wondering, what are you guys doing here? A bunch of kids in a new country. But we took our time. We were patient. We were also actively trading on the side. So we were both obtaining a brokerage license, and at the same time, we were also trading on the Indian markets while we were living there. So we had something that kind of kept us busy. And then one fine day, we obtained our licenses and then we set up the business and essentially became a customer facing business overnight.
Any major difference that you guys find out between the trading markets in India versus US in terms of strategies, companies, and research? What do you think is a
Yeah.
bigger opportunity, or is kind of the same?
So trading is trading at a very fundamental level. There's buyers and sellers, there's a market price, and you have to kind of think about where is the price going to go. Now, the thing in our case is all of our strategies were algorithmic strategies. So we were basically programming our strategies and then trading algorithmically. So at that time, this is basically around 2008 through 2010, the US algorithmic markets were much more evolved. So there's a lot more competition, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it's easier to get going. It's easier to get, to trade, to get filled on your trades. Um, but the problem is that there's more competition, right? So because of more competition, we realize, we're not going to be able to kind of keep up with everyone else that's doing this in the US, because in the US you have a lot of hedge funds and prop funds that are basically all trading algorithmically. So that's what we decided to go to India. And in India, the markets were very nascent as far as the algorithmic markets were concerned, right? So not many people were really building algorithmic trading strategies. So I think from that standpoint, we had an edge, but it took us a long time to basically have the capabilities of trading. And then a lot of times the trades would not go through because it was such a new technology. So there's a pro and a con, but generally speaking, I think when you're doing something that others are not doing, you're going to have some sort of a competitive
An
edge,
edge,
which
yeah?
is always a good thing. Exactly.
Yeah. So, do you guys develop your own software, or you were using the latest softwares out there to do your trading?
So with algorithmic trading, it's actually best to not use external software. You should try to use your own software, like your own strategies. And the
Oh,
whole goal actually is to eliminate any sort of latency. So anything that's going to create more time for the trade to get executed should be eliminated, which is why it's always best to remove as many layers as possible. So if you're using any sort of third-party vendor, third-party software, it's probably introducing latency and extra time, which is never a good thing, because if you're competing for that price with somebody else, you want to be there as fast as possible, right? So we never, relied on third-party software. We always tried to code things ourselves, and I think
Wow, you
that's
build
why
your
we were,
own. Wow, that's
yeah,
impressive.
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, to be honest though, it's actually not that difficult. Like if you have the right people on your team, then these things become much more easy to do.
Yeah. So now tell us about your second venture. So what happened? Now you have a successful business, and then you decide that, oh, you know what? I'm doing one more. What happened there?
So to be honest, it was a very difficult decision. I essentially resigned from my first company.
Oh, good.
Um,
We're doing so well. How come?
yeah, so I mean, I basically made a decision to resign and move back to the US because I wanted to raise my kids in the US. I had two kids at that time, and me living in India was not something I really wanted to do long term. So I kind of planned it out. I let
Food was
my
good though, eh?
co-founders.
You ate amazing food,
Oh, the food
yeah?
is great in India. The food is amazing. Have you been there before?
No, but I live in London, surrounded by
Oh
people
yeah,
from India,
a lot
so
of
we
Indian
full of
food. Yeah, for
restaurants.
sure. For sure, for sure. So, the food there is amazing. The people are amazing. The culture is amazing. In fact, I always recommend, if you have the opportunity to kind of go there, and even if it's to visit, or, even if it's to potentially set up a company, go for it, because the ecosystem is amazing in India for these types of things. But yeah, essentially I resigned. I moved back. I took a small sabbatical because I had been living there for like basically 12 years,
Wow.
and I wanted to come back to the US. And then I started my second company, TradingLeagues. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the second company.
So TradingLeagues is in a certain way like a continuation of Upstox. The whole point is to gamify the experience. If you think about a traditional trading platform, right? So let me ask you, Harry, do you trade or invest on any sort of brokerage?
I invest in properties,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
don't
Have
trade,
you
no.
have
I
you
know a lot of,
considered
I know
like
loads of traders though. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So trading generally, I mean, I'm sure a lot of your trading friends, they're usually pretty stressed out, especially traders. It's a very stressful activity. It's a very lonely activity because you're not really socializing with other people. And so the idea is, how do you kind of create like a new way for people to kind of experience the financial markets? And that's what we do with Trading League. So essentially on Trading Leagues, what happens is the users come in and they play games against other people, and these are games that are involving real-time prices of stocks, of forex, of cryptocurrencies, and there's a money to be won as well, right? So essentially, there's a prize pool that's distributed towards the winners of the game. So you
Oh,
can come
wow.
in, play games for anywhere between 50 cents to $20, and then if you win, you can also win some money on the side. Right. But in that process, you're basically learning about like how the markets move up and down, what causes prices to move up and down, and you're basically understanding like the nature of volatility, of price action, et cetera, et cetera. You're also learning about technical indicators and charting tools, all these things, which is required to, if you want to actually become good with the financial markets, it's important to kind of know these things. So we've tried to gamify the experience, and so far so good.
Yeah, I think I love the idea. Like we do a lot of corporate training all over the world, and we use games, right? We use games in order to teach. I think the best way of people to learn is by telling stories about playing a game. This is the easiest way that the people out there can learn and absorb content easy, because it's through an experience, right? Than being sit everybody
Exactly.
in the class and the teacher tell you what to do. Nobody wants that. Nobody, no, everybody remember the time of the school, and nobody want to see any something similar like that when they want to learn something, especially the trading, which is a very technical thing with a lot of numbers, a lot of graphs, and a little bit of
100%.
waving. So
Yeah.
by you guys using this gamification of a way of teaching people how to trade, now you're creating a more engaging way that of the user can have, so they can have the wins, And when you're playing, we do this in our workshops. When we do team building, for example, we play different games with the workers, with the employees, and after we debrief the game, right? So we check
Right.
what happened in the game, who played best, who played better, who win, who lost, why somebody win, why somebody lost, and then when you debrief that, you can understand better what are the issues in the organization, and how they can be improved. I think in the same way, when if they're playing with this platform that you design, and then they're making money, they're losing money, they practicing in a small scale. I think when
Yeah,
they go out there in the real life, they're gonna be more conscious and more, because
exactly.
it's very risky to without the proper training and the proper knowledge go there and play in the stock market. Is something that you do need to know what you're doing, otherwise you can lose a lot of money really really fast, especially
And
some stocks that are very volatile. And
and what happens is because of that, many people never get started, right? Many people, they've heard of people who have lost a lot of money day trading or even actively investing, and they've heard of these stories maybe through family and friends, and because of that, they decide to never get started, which is a really sad situation, right? Because the financial markets can do so much for you if you actually get started and you kind of know what you're doing, you know? And also
uh,
coming back to the topic of games, you know, games are intrinsically fun, right? I mean, when my kids are playing games, they're always smiling, they're having fun, and when they do that, they end up actually learning more than if it's a very serious kind of a strict environment, right? It's been proven that when you're kind of enjoying what you're doing, you end up kind of absorbing that information much better. But
mm,
with the financial markets, for whatever reason, we're expected to go and fund an account with thousands of dollars. It's almost like a broken system because of that prohibitive factor, most people will never get started with their journeys. And that's a very
yeah,
sad thing, you know?
that's sad, because when if you become an investor, and you learn how to do this properly, you put the money to work for you. You don't have to work for money. The money actually will work for you. They will do all the job for you, if you have the right mindset and the right psychology, right? I think that a lot of into trade goes, and not too many people talk about, is about the mindset of the trader, right? Because if you have
Hmm.
your mindset established, and you have you don't turn this into a gamble. You turn this into a calculating risk, using software,
Right.
using knowledge, using experience. Now
Using experience, exactly. Yeah.
you have an opportunity to make a good living for yourself without even having to work. It's the money who's gonna go out and work for you, right? And who doesn't
Exactly.
want that?
And yeah, and I think you nailed it, right? When you talk about experience, experience is actually the ultimate teacher, right? When you go through something over and over and over and over and over again in life, then your brain has already kind of incorporated all that information, all that data, and that is now driving your instincts and driving your decision making, right? You cannot read that through books. The same thing, you know, you mentioned real estate, right? Same thing with real estate, right? It's one of those weird things where, you know, real estate agents and real estate, you know, people who understand real estate really well, they gain that experience, that knowledge, which then makes them better and better at that craft.
Mhm.
So it's a weird catch 22, and it's hard to solve these things. But sometimes when you introduce a new way to do something, then, you know, it kind of ends up, bringing a lot of solutions to the table. Maybe you should create a gamified platform for real estate.
Ah, yeah, that's a great idea. I think that the we when we do the corporate trainings, and when we do train, when the CEO of the company tell us, Harry, we want to increase the sales of our company, or we want all the employees arrive on time. In Latin America, South America, we have this issue a lot. Or
Hmm.
I don't know, or we want them to improve in customer service. What we do is we go back to a hotel and we write a workshop tailored to that company. But what we are doing actually is preparing a game. preparing a
Mm-hmm.
game that will have this outcome, because this is the only way that the employees are there at work, that they know that we're going there to solve the problem and to tell them what to do. We already have a resistance there before even we arrive, right? And when we arrive, they're all like this, because they know that already the CEO told us that we're gonna tell them what to do, and they don't like that. And after 10, 15 minutes, they are all jumping, dancing, and playing games. Then is allow us a very good context for us to deliver the content to teach them what we need to taught them, and by creating this gamifying experience, they is what we call accelerated learning, right? I don't
Right.
even call it anymore accelerated learning. I'm calling it experiential learning, because
Mm-hmm.
the if you the fastest way that anyone can learn anything is by having an experience, and
Right.
listening stories and games like you share with us is, for me, it's the most powerful and effective way out there to get results. So how this idea came from?
From experience. So,
Ah,
to be honest, being one of the co-founders of Upstox and a kind of a leading stock brokerage in India, I saw firsthand that a lot of users face this problem, right? They open up a brokerage account, they don't really know what they're doing. They start, kind of dabbling in exotic instruments like options and intraday trading. And before you know it, they lose a lot of money very quickly. So one well-known statistic is that 95% of day traders lose money across asset classes across the world, right? So if you're intraday trading, meaning you're buying and selling within the day, which is what most traders do, then there's a 95% chance that you're going to lose money. So the odds
oh,
are heavily kind of stacked against you, right? It doesn't matter whether you're trading on Robinhood, whether you're trading on Binance, or whether you're trading on, a stock brokerage in India. Those are the facts. But many people don't know that, or they choose to ignore that. So what I saw was an opportunity for us to create a platform that a traditional stock brokerage would not be allowed to create, right? Because there's a slight conflict of interest here. So stock brokerages cannot really create a gamified offering. And so that gave us an opportunity. And then we did a lot of research. We kind of thought about it a little bit. We saw that there's a huge market out there for this kind of an offering. We spent more than a year kind of building up the product. I
oh.
kind of, introduced my co-founders to the idea. They kind of bought into it. And then before you know, we launched the product. So it took time, but I think, again, going back to experience, when you have that experience, even as an operator, when you understand the landscape, that gives you that knowledge, and then you can kind of act on it.
Yeah. So, even your first company, we can define all these companies that you have been running. They are what we call it tech companies, right? They are in technology, they're
Hmm.
software operated. So, what advice do you have out there for all the tech entrepreneurs that want to make the first million in sales? What are the five
So
steps?
the
Five
five
steps.
steps, yeah, yeah, I do have the 5 steps kind of laid out here. So again, going back to experience, I think you have to really think these things through before you kind of plunge into entrepreneurship. Um, so the first thing is to have a good idea, right? It's important to have a good idea, because if you don't have a good idea, then you're going to basically probably fail, because number one, you're not going to be excited about what you're doing. And number two, the potential is not going to be there to kind of scale the whole thing, right? So you want to make sure it's a good idea, something you really believe in. Spend a lot of time thinking about what you want to do, because whatever you do, you're going to end up probably doing it for the next 5, 10, 15 years, right? Which is a good chunk of your life, which is probably at least 1/5, 1/10, 1/20th of your life right there gone, right? So you want to make sure you're pursuing a good idea which can scale. Number two is, as a part of that research process, you want to make sure that the size of the market is big enough. So you may have a really great idea, but then if you do the research, you realize that, it's called the TAM, the total addressable market, may not be big enough for your idea. See, even if you're wildly successful and you're monopolizing your market and you're clearly number one, your market may be too small, right? And it may not be growing fast enough. So you want to make sure that whatever idea you want to pursue has a big enough market so that you can come in and supply that market. Um, Number three, right? This is probably the most important one, making sure you have a good team, right? So I never recommend people starting their own companies. I always recommend trying to find a co-founder who's kind of aligned with you. And ideally, finding a co-founder who's complementary in nature, right? So I'm not really a technical person. I've never really coded in my life, but I've always had co-founders who complemented me, right? So with Upstox, both of my co-founders came
That were
from computer
tech.
science backgrounds. They were tech, right? So my brother is a really, really good programmer. And then our third co-founder, he's essentially the CTO of Upstox. He's a brilliant, brilliant programmer, tech guy. So he oversaw the product. And then same thing with TradingLeagues. My co-founder, Harsh, he's a brilliant product guy. So we complement each other. I kind of oversee business operations. He oversees the tech. And that way we can get along. And I think that's also important because you don't want to kind of overstep and kind of start micromanaging your co-founder. No one wants to be micromanaged in life. So what that automatically does is it creates like a Chinese wall between the co-founders, which is a good thing, right? He does his thing, I do my thing. He helps me, I help him. But I know he's going to own his domain and I own mine, right? So having a good team, and then it's not just co-founders, also thinking about your first maybe 3 to 5 hires. Who do you want to join your team? Who believes in your company? Who's willing to work for equity and not necessarily a big pay, right? So having a good team in place. And then number four is, obviously you have to build a product and then establishing what is called PMF or product market fit. So that's critical, right? Because you may have the world's best product, but if you can't figure out a market that's going to absorb that product, then it doesn't matter, right? It's basically a useless product. So this requires some experimentation. You're not going to get it right away. That's okay. It's okay to experiment a lot. But once you kind of experiment and you figure out a product market fit, which means you're maybe getting your first 1,000 customers, right, organically without running any sort of paid advertising, that's a decent sign of a product market fit. And the number five is scaling your product, right? So establishing that go-to-market strategy, making sure your unit place. So, as an entrepreneur, you should probably learn about all the major acronyms like your cost of acquiring a customer, which is your CAC, your LTV, your lifetime value of your customer, your ARPU, your average revenue per user. All these, numbers are important to know. There's like 4 or 5 of them. And essentially, what those numbers indicate is your business scalable? And are you kind of able to scale without burning cash too quickly? Right. And once you do that, then at a certain point in time, you can think about raising funds and all that stuff. I never recommend fundraising before establishing PMF. Of course, there's exceptions, right? If you have a crazy AI technology, go for it, right? You can probably get funded like tomorrow, right? Because AI is, everyone is funding AI companies these days. But otherwise, it's better to establish a strong PMF because you're going to get better valuation. You can experiment a little bit, and then you can kind of go for your fundraise if you want to.
And then, Raghu, tell us a little bit more about product market fit, right? How is the journey that you took, or what was the you designed the product, right? And how was your journey to actually to get these 1,000 users organically?
So what we did was we experimented a lot. So we first designed our product. And then the good news for us is what was that before TradingLeagues, we had built another product which we decided not to focus on because it was not scalable. But we had some users over there. We had their email addresses. We had, we knew who they were. So we asked them to basically, give feedback on our designs, right, for our product. And once we got the feedback, we knew that this was a UI friendly product. And so we designed the application. Once we designed it, then we experimented by running different types of campaigns. So for example, we onboarded different types of influencers and we had the influencers talk about the product. What we realized very quickly was that was not going to work because number one, there was no market, like no one knew about the product. So it's very difficult for the influencer to push a product that hasn't really been accepted by the market yet. Then we tried to run some Google ads, right? Things like that. None of that really worked. And then what we decided to do was to kind of double down on community management. So we onboarded a bunch of community managers and we paid them to essentially start onboarding users, training their users, teaching them how to play on the platform, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of led to like our first 50 to 100 paying users. And we tripled down on that strategy. And then within 1 month, we had like more than 1,000 paying
Wow.
users, you know?
So
Yeah.
basically, to building the following and the community in the social media out there is what actually uh, uh, created this success in the getting the product market fit. Correct?
Yeah. So in our case, the community manager angle worked really well because a lot of crypto-based companies, they rely heavily on community management. So if you look at a lot of these crypto exchanges or any sort of traditional Web3 company, it's all about building up communities because Web3 is all about decentralization and creating a global product offering, right?
Mm.
So the way global offerings do well is by having these different kind of community managers located around the world who are each driving their communities to the platform. So we knew there were going to be a lot of community managers who would be willing to work with us, and that's essentially what we did. We went on LinkedIn, we created a job post, we you know um, interviewed our community managers, and before you knew it, we had like 50 to 100 community managers, each driving pretty active communities to trading leagues. So you have to experiment. I think the bigger takeaway was this is what worked for us. But in that kind of first phase, the first 1 to 3 months, you want to heavily experiment with different things. Referrals are also really, really powerful, right? So once you get your first 100 paying users, making sure that they have an easy way to refer their friends and family to the application, right? And making it a little lucrative. It's okay to spend on your first 1,000 paying users, because once you get your first cohort of paying users, that can snowball, right? And now you're building some brand loyalty, you're getting some stickiness going, you're getting kind of recurring deposits coming through, and you're also learning from your mistakes, right?
Mm.
So it's okay to spend a little bit in that early phase, and experimenting heavily, having a good referral system. I think all of those things help a lot.
Yeah, I think that and then how many followers have the community managers in the group minimum for you guys to hire them?
So in our case, with our community managers, we had certain KPIs. We wanted to make sure that they each had at least between 500 to 1,000 existing community members in their existing communities. So the idea was that once they would join trading leagues as a community manager, they would immediately have a decent number of users to kind of reach out to, right? So that was important. Also having good communication skills and being able to talk about the product, not kind of misinforming their users, right? All those things are really important. But again, that's what worked for us. It really depends on the kind of product you're building.
Yeah, and then what is the the message that you have to they want to share for all the listeners? If somebody is there struggling and they don't know how to start the journey about start to trading, I think that if people are listening this podcast and they think that it's a good idea to put the money to work for you, right? You work for money, you put the money to work for you, right? And always remember and learn how to take calculated risk, no gamble, and the best way is by having fun while you're learning, right?
Hmm.
So how they can find you guys, how they can access your platform, and how can you help them?
Sure. So, multiple things to kind of talk about over there. I'll kind of first talk about, as a trader, if you're an aspiring trader, what should you kind of do, right? If you want to become a good trader with the financial markets, what should you look out for? Number one, kind of going back to the kind of 5-step plan, right? For becoming a good entrepreneur. Even a trader ultimately is an entrepreneur. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you have a good idea, right? A good trading idea. I'm always of the firm belief that as a trader, it's better to use a rules-based system versus just acting on emotions. So there's a lot of way to kind of get into a rules-based trading approach, right? It doesn't have to be algorithmic in nature, but it can be rules-based. So I would do some research into rules-based trading. building your own trading system with rules-based entries and exits, making sure you're using proper risk management techniques like stop losses, profit objectives, etc. Reading a lot. There's a lot of great books out there. And once you feel ready, then you want to start building up your strategy and then deploying a small amount of capital, and just kind of testing things out. And once you have a good, consistent strategy that's kind of consistently making money, then you can kind of scale that, right? So that's what I would say to traders. Regarding us with Trading Leagues, our website is tradingleagues.app. So it's tradingleagues .app. And it's a web-based application. It's free to register. We're also on Instagram, Trading Leagues HQ. And you can find me on Twitter at Raghu_Rain.
That's fantastic. So thank you so much, Rao, for your time and for joining this podcast today. I think that we're very inspired by your story, right? And is your brother still in India or he's back to US?
My brother is actually currently in Dubai, so
Oh
he's
wow, I
currently
love
in
Dubai. It's
yeah,
fantastic.
he's been in Dubai for a couple of years right now, and he goes back and forth between Dubai and India, so he's having fun. Yeah, he's
So
having
it
fun.
seems like not coming back to US, yeah? Dubai is fantastic. Have
He
you been
may.
there?
Yeah. I have been to Dubai. Yeah, I was in Dubai last month, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful
Oh my
place,
God, it's fantastic. We go every year.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
in here in UK in the winter in December is really cold, so usually we go there. We do conference there, and in Dubai we have done it for more than 1 year in different platforms. Even women empowerment conference we have run over there, and it's beautifully fantastic. So Rao, I think that for our listeners, I think that it's very important when you're an entrepreneur or when you want to achieve success in life to stick with people that already have achieved some level of results, right? To having a mentor, to have a role model, and if you guys are passionate about trading, if you guys are I thinking that you can generate an extra income because even you can have your own job, right, and trade on the side. Like sometimes we always say to people, don't quit the job straight away. You can build your side business, your side trading business while you're working in your current job. That could be a good model to follow. And with the right mentors, with the right teachers, they can achieve success in trading, which I find it fascinating actually. And I do invest, like I said, in properties. And it's amazing when this concept click that wow, the money is working for me. So you have to work because you want to, not because you have to. Is a very good position to be in life because you decide the terms that you want to live your life and not otherwise. And I believe that trading is one of the ways of doing this, where you don't need to build a business. You don't need to it's all built for you. All you need to learn is how this software, how this algorithm work, understand the mechanics of business and the company that you trade in, and you have a big chance to be successful if you learn, right? I think it's a skill.
Exactly.
It's
It's
a
a
skill. The
skill.
more you practice, the better you become. It's not like
It's a skill.
now, for example, oh, Rao is a successful trader. Yeah, but he been doing it for so many years that now is a skill. The more you do it, the better you become. It's like driving, right, or swimming.
Exactly.
When you start
And
to
and you want
drive,
to get it to the point, you want to get to the point where, essentially everything is on autopilot, right? You're not
yes.
thinking
Ah,
anymore. Like when
wow.
you're
That would be
right, like
fantastic. Wow, that's a
yeah,
very interesting concept. Yeah. So once you
yeah,
have all the skills, yeah, and then by gamifying the process, in my opinion, what it does is accelerate the way that you get this skill. It's like it will 10x this skill because this is something that we do it ourselves when we training companies around the world. Is we gamify the knowledge that we're gonna give to the employees, to the clients, and they can learn 10x faster, and they can gain the skill 10x faster than in a traditional way. So I wish you the best. I think that you have a very powerful tool there. I'm very impressed. Thank you so much. And for all of you following this podcast, see you in our next episode. How successful entrepreneur break that wall and achieve the first million in sales. Bye for now.
thanks,
Thank
Harry.
you. Thank you.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.